rebel religion in the news.
All right, a California pastor is telling people, get out of the state. If a bill passes which could expand the categories of who can claim caregiver rights over a child, it is AB 495. It's just starting its way through the legislature. No need to freak out yet. No need to pack your bags, but something to keep an eye on. I'm Jerry O'Lennon, Alfredo Romero, Rock of Life Fellowship. He's the pastor there, and Pastor Brennan DeForest of Redeemer Lutheran Church. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And let's get right to this. The pastor is Jack Hibbs of Calvary Chapel in Chino Hills. He warned in an interview that if this bill passes, you have to grab your kid and leave the state for your child's protection. That is quite a statement. And maybe, is it overdone? All right, Pastor, I know that you have been following this closely. You are a new father, in fact.
Yep.
You have a beautiful child, by the way. His name is Jasper.
Yeah.
And so tell us about it. What are the consequences?
So it started out as a great idea, making sure that if something happens to you during the day, somebody can still pick up your kid from school.
Mm-hmm.
But it just goes too far. It basically says anybody can pick up your kid from school without even telling you, without even asking your permission. All they need to do, go into the school, know your child's full name, birth date, sign an 8-question affidavit, and they never have to let the parents know they're going to take your child. And then once they have your child, they can make medical decisions for them, things like that. So that sounds very, like, wow, how could they allow this to happen? But it was kind of just a lack of critical thinking and thinking about, well, if we allow this for some people, what about these other people, these predators? What are they going to do?
In other words, the law may have had good intentions,
Yeah,
but they
certainly.
didn't think of all of the ramifications that could happen
Certainly.
when you start digging into the particulars of the bill.
When you start just letting anybody pick up your child from school and kind of claim them, that they didn't quite think about that.
One of the things that I read too was anyone that can claim a mentorship role over the child based upon the time they spend with them. For example, a teacher can actually claim that they're a guardian of the child because of the time they spend with the child, their mentorship, which I've never liked anyway. Frankly, I'm just going to say, ever since I was a kid in school, I was only joking, Rod Stewart.
Is that a musical reference?
Yeah, Rod Stewart. I was only joking.
Oh,
1977.
Rod Stewart. Okay. Well,
So
all right.
no, but here it is. I've never liked the 8-hour, 5 days a week take homework that takes you 2 hours to do anyway. But what this bill is saying, if anyone spends time with your child, they can actually claim a guardianship role.
Yeah.
And that presumably would mean a teacher.
A teacher.
Well,
Or,
I'm not
or
sure.
actually anybody.
it really could mean anybody. So a lot of times, you think, oh, you have a family member and they can pick your kid up from school and everything like that. I mean, this could be anybody.
Well, there's some other things that's in the bill, AB 495. Again, it's just in the beginning stages. Go ahead.
It's gone a little bit further than that. It's actually it's already passed through the California Assembly,
All right.
California State Assembly. Last week on Monday, it was being considered in the Senate Appropriations Committee, the State Senate Appropriations Committee, and it was put into the security file or the save it for later file, essentially. They need to do a little bit more thinking about what the financial ramifications are. So we don't know. So right now its status is really in limbo. It could still get passed. It looks like it might not. A lot of bills that end up in this pile end up not getting passed. So that's good news. But it's a little bit further than beginning stages.
Yeah, the bill also says one of the bill's intentions is to protect immigrant children at risk of family separation through ICE,
Dun, dun,
immigration
dun.
enforcement. That could be one of the reasons. The bill allows a caregiver who's a relative or has, quote, as you say, an established family or mentoring relationship with the child to sign a caregiver's authorization affidavit and be given the legal right to enroll a minor in school and consent to school-related medical care on behalf of the minor. That's what the text says.
So, I mean, if for those of you out there that have maybe followed this a little bit closely, my opinion is, of all the things that I read about California state and even the federal government, there's been an attack on parental rights for a long time and breaking apart the family unit as God intended it from, with the evil patriarchy. And to me, this is just part of a bigger plan to take control of children. For example, Kamala Harris was infamous for saying, these are just the parents' children. These are our children. And that goes way back to Hillary Clinton, who said it takes a village, which in more detail, she misconstrued something out of the Bible, and basically she's saying that the children belong to us. And then it was, I'm sorry, I'm going to go a little bit. It was exposed through COVID and children being at home, what they were secretly teaching our children, and parents were uproar over this, and I'm going to say indoctrination of children to sexuality and other things. We didn't know anything during COVID. All of a sudden, parents see what's going on, during COVID, they see what's going on, and they said, wait a minute, there's something going on with the state and our children.
Parental rights groups in the state argue the bill is too broad. As it is currently written, could strip parents of their authority to make school-related medical decisions for their kids.
Yeah.
It says schools are under no obligation to conduct further inquiries or investigations. There is no requirement in the bill for schools to get parental consent, check photo ID, or do a background check on those who complete the affidavit. Wow. It requests a driver's license number, but caregivers may provide a Social Security or Medi-Cal number instead. Now, Pastor Hibbs said that legal experts he's consulted have called the bill, quote, a human trafficker, pedophile, and kidnapper's dream come true.
Oh, yeah. That's another part of it.
That's Pastor Hibbs, and that's Pastor Hibbs speaking to so-called legal. We don't know who his legal experts are, but so we want to make sure we're accurate and fair here. If signed into law, similar bills could crop up in other states across the nation. That's what the pastor Hibbs is warning. He argued that California's education code already protects immigrant students in schools in cases of immigration enforcement.
So, I mean, very good intentions, especially about the immigration thing. If you're worried about that you might be taken during the day, you want to make sure that somebody can pick up your child from school.
Right.
But, I think ultimately what happened here is this was just written way too broadly. And it's like opening a Pandora's box of potential for damage being done to the family.
Now, this is a pretty extreme reaction, though, from the Pastor Hibbs, who says, pack up your bags. If this bill passes, pack up your bags and leave the state of California. There may be a lot of reasons to leave the state of California already. You've got high gas prices, high taxes, there are fires. When there's not a fire, there's a flood. When there's not a flood, there's a drought. So there are a lot of reasons you might want to leave California, high housing prices, a lot of things that you might not agree with on the social issues. I'm not sure this is the sword to die on, though, or the hill to die on, as they say.
But it could be the straw that broke the camel's back. When you look at the whole big picture, I know a lot of people that are considering this. The main thing, though, and you said on it, and I want to park a little bit on it, the whole pedophile thing, and people are just not in the know if they don't think that there's some type of movement towards pedophilia. Mm-hmm. Even our state has tried to pass laws, and I think and I don't want to say anything I'm not sure about, but didn't they just pass something where you have to be 5 years older and to be able to have a sexual with somebody as a minor? But there is definitely I'm just going to say, the progressive people have this movement towards, there's Mambla and there's other things, and there's we don't want to call it pedophilia, we want to call it minor attracted people.
As soon as Obergefell was decided in 2015, and that just broke down the definition of what marriage is.
Yes.
And so now, anybody can kind of decide what their own version of marriage is.
Yeah. This is interesting to me, and I don't want to sound like I'm supporting something. I just want to bring up something of a biblical nature. In the days of the Old Testament, many women were considered at a much younger. They were a younger age was considered as a woman. Many people believe, although I don't know if it's a fact, that maybe even the Virgin Mary,
More than likely, she was 15 years old.
15 years old. So
Yeah.
there are some who would look at this, and I'm not one of them. I want to be very clear about that. But there would be some who would say, well, wait a minute, look at the Bible. There were, women were considered 15, and that's when they would get married and start a family. Is there anything to that where we should consider that from a Christian standpoint, or do we as Christians say that was then, this is now? We have a better understanding of human sexuality. We understand more about how the growth of a young girl becomes into a young woman. Things are different now than they were back 2,000 years ago. That's a hard question.
That's a tough question. I mean, in America, 18 years old is kind of what we've determined
Right.
as you're an adult. Some states it's 19. Some states it's 18. Yeah, in biblical times that was a little bit more fluid. And in biblical times, also what's the main focus in everybody's marriage? It's about children, because you needed to have more children. And so, I'm not advocating for pedophilia at all.
Of course not.
But also, 15, 16, that's when a woman is most fertile throughout her entire life. And so I think that's why that was taking place throughout the entire ancient world.
Right.
One of the toughest things to do is take today's culture and values and morals and
Yeah,
ethics,
yeah.
and then try to go back. Well, 2,000 years
Snap it
ago,
back on,
it-
yeah.
you know
Right.
what? You think just to think, and I've heard.
I've heard this argument
Yeah, I've
about
heard this
people
discussion.
bringing up the Bible saying, well, wait a minute, Mary was only 15, 16 years
well,
old.
Well, see, back then in biblical times, think about this: no internet, no buildings, no social media, nothing.
Yeah.
And what you did was you grew a family. You also trying to populate the earth, be fruitful and multiply. And so that's where it comes from.
All right, we're going to step aside. You're listening to Rebel, Religion in the News. I'm Jerry O'Lennon, Alfredo Romero, Rock of Life Fellowship, and Pastor Brennan DeForest from Redeemer Lutheran Church. We'll be right back.
Rebel in the news.
Welcome back. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about Cracker Barrel, and I thought, okay, one segment's enough about Cracker Barrel. But, I put on the news, and guess what they're talking about? They're talking about Cracker Barrel. And so I think I want to get I think it's an interesting discussion. And so let's talk about Cracker Barrel. They've changed their logo, and they've taken the old guy sitting on a rocking chair next to a barrel. All of that's gone. Now it just says Cracker Barrel. And a lot of people are upset about it. Why they did it, I'm not sure what the reason was why they did it. I think they're trying to expand out to the West Coast a little bit more, because if I live down south, and I remember Cracker Barrel as being a very traditional, conservative type of restaurant to go to, very old-fashioned. And I know that I've heard some say it's because of the culture wars, and there's something to do with that. I'm not I think that's what you think, Pastor Alfredo, but I'm not you haven't convinced me, and nobody's convinced me yet that is the reason why. Give your best argument about why you think this is a part of the war on culture.
Okay, everybody knows the war on culture basically has been a move that progresses. Has been a move towards, we don't want to hurt people's feelings. We want to be all inclusive. We have the DEI stuff with diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they have mantras. They have certain things they say, and even certain things that they would do to make sure that everybody feels good. And we're going to give you a participation trophy, and we're going to make sure we never say, and there's a safe space, and I'm not going to put anything up there that can possibly offend anybody.
All right.
Okay, so now I think the best part about it is watching the CEO give her interview, who basically said, I think it was a Good Morning America, basically said the whole thing. Cracker Barrel is just a lot of things to everyone, and we want to make sure everybody feels included. So some of the things they've done, if you look at the remodel, it's not old timey at all. It looks like It looks like a decent little restaurant with little pictures on the wall. Gone are like, the shotgun on the wall and the pictures
Yeah,
of John Wayne and
You got a saber saw up here.
Yeah, you got a saw.
You got guns and,
you
all
got
kinds of things. Yeah.
you got deer horns and
All right, okay. Well, let's hold tight. I got you. You made your point, but people on the West Coast, they might not be seeing it that way. They're not into, logging and farming and doing sometimes. They just want a nice meal, and they don't want to be surrounded by all of this. So their executives have determined that first of all, their price share has slid dramatically since 2020. Well before this happened. It went from $180 a share down to about $55 a share before this happened.
True.
So it was already on a downward spiral. So if I'm an executive, I'm thinking, got to do something different here. Have you ever been to one of these, Pastor?
I've been to many Cracker Barrels, and I don't know when I'd go back. The last time that I ate at one, my food was just not good. And maybe it's because I didn't get breakfast food, but I got one of their pot roasts, and I think it was more fat than beef. And I was just super disappointed.
Well,
And
what
I said that I don't think I would go back, and that was in Indiana.
Well, there's only one
Indiana.
here. It's actually now in Rockland, I believe, or
Roseville?
and they closed the one in downtown Sacramento. So here's the thing, and I just want to go a little bit further on this.
Okay.
The whole thing about DEI, they have the markings of DEI. So now the rocking chairs, the CEO says, "Oh, rocking chairs are still out there," but now they have LGBTQ flags on them. And then they don't want to hurt people's feelings, so the little peg game that was on every table, you got to get down to one peg. It used to say,
Like if you had 4 pegs left, they would call you an ignoramus.
ignoramus. But if you were we got only one peg, you were a genius. Now it's like, and I heard it this morning. Try again. Don't be discouraged. Keep going.
Well, that started long ago. I remember the game Life. Remember the game Life?
Oh, yeah, sure.
If you went to the end and you lost, you were in the poorhouse.
Yeah.
Now they don't put you in the poorhouse. Now you're just into a 3-2 house bedroom. You don't live in the mansion. Yeah, that kind of thing is.
Yeah, they don't say poorhouse. I'm joking. But it just says you're financially struggling.
Yeah.
But
right.
they changed the words. Why? Because they don't offend. That is an earmark of DEI.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely. It's because it's everywhere. We don't want to offend people. We have safe spaces. We got their huggable animals in college.
I said this yesterday. I stand by it today. If you're the CEO, your only obligation is to sell as many pancakes as you can. That's the only goal. It doesn't matter what you put up there. If you have an old man sitting in a rocking chair, if you have a young woman sitting in on a couch, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. If whatever sells the most pancakes is what you should be doing. And if this sells more pancakes, then they're making the right decision. Yeah. I don't have any idea because from what I could tell on their stock price, they're not selling any pancakes. So I don't know. I guess I don't really have a dog in this fight.
I commend them for trying something different. You're right.
Yeah.
If I go to a restaurant, I want to make sure that I want good food to be brought out to me.
Right, I'm Alfredo. I think you're out on the island here.
No, listen here, because I've been in marketing for years. I'm a business major.
Right.
I worked for a major company for years, and part of my job is marketing. If you went into a board meeting with Cracker Barrel and you said sales are slumping, stock is down, we got to do something, we got to rebrand, and we got to do something, and the purpose was, like you said, to sell more pancakes and grits and fried chicken. I'm on board. I've done that in my own businesses. No problem. But it's obvious that the point was not solely based on sales and marketing.
I'm not convinced of that.
It was DEI too. It was also, we got to get with it.
Everything can't be blamed on DEI. Maybe you're right. Maybe
a
there's
percentage.
Maybe a small percent. I'll give you that. But here's what their statement said. We love seeing how much you care about our, quote, our old timer. We love him too. Uncle Herschel will still be on our menu, on our road signs, and featured in our country store. He's not going anywhere. He's family, the statement said. But there are some people who will look at Uncle Herschel and go, who is this guy? I can't relate to this old guy sitting next to a barrel. I don't relate to that guy. and I don't want to go into that store because I don't relate to him. He is a unique individual that's going to appeal to only a certain number or a certain type of person. I went to.
So
I
you
like
can't use it. So you can't use any person in any marketing because you're not going to represent 100% of the nation.
Well, of course, but you want to make sure you represent the largest portion of people you can
That's white
to the
people.
nation, and that's what.
White people.
Well,
Some of the feedback was you had an old white guy on there, and
Right.
this is a nation of immigrants and people of different colors. We can't have Uncle Herb.
well,
up
that's
there.
true. There are different types of people, and so maybe what the company is saying is, why should we identify with one particular person?
That's DEI. That is DEI right there in a nutshell. We can't offend anyone. We've got to put somebody up there that's diverse. So
No, they didn't put anybody up there. That's the point.
That's
and maybe
the point.
maybe that was the success of it. When you go to Olive Garden, which is very successful, you don't see some Italian guy up there. It's just Olive Garden. There's nobody. I mean, maybe that's the way. Maybe that's the best marketing strategy there is. When you go to, give me another successful restaurant. But what is another? Chili's is a successful restaurant. Do you see any person on who represents Chili's? No.
the little pepper, the little red
Yeah,
pepper.
little pepper. I mean, so there's no, and so Colonel Sanders is the only one that still
Wendy's.
sticks around.
Colonel Sanders, Wendy's.
Colonel
Wendy's,
Sanders.
the little red-haired girl with the pigtails looks like
Wendy's,
Pippi
yeah,
Longstocking.
Yeah.
Even McDonald's has nobody sees Ronald McDonald anymore.
They
Oh,
don't
they
see-
they
you're
got
right.
rid of Ronald McDonald.
Right. So I'm not willing to. I mean, I maybe you're right.
Let me read something real quick. A brand
Right.
new article just came out this morning.
All right.
It basically says Cracker Barrel's CEO dismissed warnings from a top investor who called the rebranding obvious folly. The criticism was based on this is not going to sell more pancakes. It's going to be the Bud Light treatment.
I maybe, but the difference there is Bud Light was doing really well when they brought in Dylan Mulvaney.
True.
They were doing really, really well, and
Yeah.
then they made a change, and that maybe was not very bright.
Good point.
But in this case, the stock price had dropped from 180 down into the 50s. So they needed to do something different. And it sounds to me like they have tried to appease the types who like this uncle. What's his name? Uncle Fester?
Herschel.
Uncle Fester.
Uncle Fester.
Dun-dun-dun. Uncle Herschel.
Uncle Herschel. It sounds like they appease the people who like Uncle Herschel. I mean, he's on the menu. They got him on billboard signs on some places. And maybe that's what they need to do.
There is gonna be-
Maybe if you're down in Nashville, Tennessee, maybe you keep the sign with Uncle Herschel. If you're in San Francisco, maybe you take Uncle Herschel down. I don't know.
I mean, there's this uproar over them just changing their sign. But
Yeah.
what were they doing? Last year they were updating the inside of their restaurants,
Right.
and painting them white and painting them, and they're not yellow anymore, and they're not all crowded. And I am sorry to say, I also didn't like eating at Cracker Barrel because it felt crowded. And I don't mind the white walls at a restaurant. I think that it makes it look a little bit cleaner.
So
Maybe you might be right.
And I could see, I've been to Cracker Barrels where I see the layer of dust on some of the stuff that's hanging on the wall, and it just makes
But
you
that's
wonder.
like eating at grandma's house. Okay.
Yeah,
That's not
that's
like
right.
eating
You
at
know,
my grandma's.
here's
house.
what- I'm gonna
My grandma had a clean kitchen.
I'll prophesy. I'm going to prophesy for a while.
Prophesy?
Yeah, okay.
You have 1 minute to do it, so make
Okay.
it quick. You have less than that, 30 seconds.
Do you remember when Jack in the Box got rid of Jack? And all of a sudden Jack's back. I see a marketing ploy in the future.
Maybe.
Uncle Herschel is back, or whatever.
Maybe like New Coke.
Yeah, Uncle Herb is back.
It's all a plot, like
It's all a
Coke
plot.
and New Coke. Yeah,
Yeah.
you never know. Maybe that's the grand plan. I don't know, but we didn't solve the Cracker Barrel dilemma. But it's always fun to talk about.
Yeah.
We might talk about it some more. Got pretty heated here.
I did like their grits. Sorry.
Pastor Brennan DeForest, Redeemer Lutheran Church, 10 o'clock on Sunday over on Moss Avenue in Chico. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Talk to you next time. So.
Amen.